Baseballs are something that almost everyone who has ever played sports has used. They come in different sizes, weights, and qualities. Some are used for major league games and some are used for playing at home. Still, there are some baseballs that are crazily expensive and just outright invaluable. Here's a list of some of the most expensive and invaluable baseballs ever, so get ready to be amazed. Let's start off with Honus Wagner's signed Christmas baseball. Honus Wagner played an impressive 21 seasons and was even nicknamed the Flying Dutchman during his career. After he retired in 1917, he signed a baseball for a lucky fan on Christmas Eve in 1931. This ball features Wagner's autograph as well as the date. Although it's unclear who the fan actually was, the fact remains that this is an incredible piece of baseball history. In fact, it was so valuable that it sold for more than $12,000 at an auction held by Leland's. If you thought that was impressive, just wait until you hear about the next baseball on our list. Still, Honus Wagner was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1936 and passed away in 1955. As a player who's been called the nearest thing to a perfect player, it's no wonder his signed baseball is so valuable. Next on the list, we have the 1942-45 Babe Ruth single-signed OAL Heritage baseball. This baseball was signed by Ruth in October of 1945 and was given to a young fan who met a baseball legend. This was a Reach official American League ball and was signed as Babe Ruth traveled the country to support the war effort. This baseball eventually sold at a Sotheby's auction for an impressive $15,000. Although it was expected to sell for even more, this is still an amazing price for a baseball. Babe Ruth is considered one of the greatest baseball players of all time, and the fact that more than 100,000 people lined up to pay their respects at his casket just goes to show how loved he was. Now let's move on to the next baseball on our list, which was signed by William Harridge. William Harridge wasn't a baseball player. Shocking that his signed baseball would sell for so much? Not really, when you consider the fact that Harridge was the president of the American League for 27 years. He helped set up the first Major League All-Star game and was even inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1970. This baseball was signed by Harridge in 1932 and eventually sold at an auction for $17,000. This just goes to show that a baseball doesn't need to be signed by a player to be valuable. Sometimes the signature of an important baseball figure can be just as valuable, if not more so. Harridge got his start in the world of professional baseball when he was hired as the American League president Ban Johnson's personal secretary. Over the years, William worked his way up the ladder and became president of the American League in 1931. This was probably one of the most impressive things about Harridge and likely one of the reasons his signature is so valuable. After all, not many people can say that they've worked their way up to such a high position in baseball. Now, let's talk about the ball signed by Cy Young. This impressive baseball has a history and a connection to one of the most infamous pitchers in history, so there'll be no surprise that it makes it easily onto this list of some of the most valuable baseballs of all time. So who exactly was Cy Young? Cy Young played an incredible 21 seasons and is considered one of the best pitchers in baseball history. He holds a lot of records, including the record for most innings pitched at 7,356. Young is also number 4 for all-time shutouts with an impressive 76 under his belt. This ball was signed by Young in 1909 and eventually sold for more than $16,000 at an auction held by Leland's. Young was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1937 after one of the most impressive careers in the sport. One signature may be good, but what about a ball signed by Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig? Well, that's exactly what we have for the next baseball on our list. These two New York Yankees legends played together for an incredible 13 seasons and were even nicknamed Murderers Row. This ball was signed by both Ruth and Gehrig in 1927. And eventually sold for more than $23,000 at an auction. Although this may not be the most expensive baseball on our list, it's still a pretty impressive price for a ball with two signatures. Ruth and Gehrig are iconic players who are both inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame. Gehrig was inducted in 1939, 3 years after Ruth. Gehrig was a first baseman who seemed so durable that could have played forever. Gehrig played for 17 seasons while Ruth played 22. However, Ruth is considered one of the greatest baseball players of all time. He's even been called the greatest baseball player that ever lived. Ruth was known for his incredible hitting ability and his larger-than-life personality. Pair this with Gehrig, and you have a baseball worth a heck of a lot of money. Next on the list, though, we have the 1939 Baseball Hall of Fame baseball. If you thought 2 signatures just weren't enough, try this baseball on for size. The signers of this ball include Honus Wagner, Dizzy Dean, Connie Mack, and many more. The signatures aren't the only thing valuable about this baseball. The ball was signed on June 12, 1939, which coincided with the opening of the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. This baseball features signatures from so many members of the Baseball Hall of Fame, and many of these members are considered some of the greatest players of all time. This ball eventually sold for more than $50,000, which is the 5th most expensive baseball sold at an auction. It's also one of the most valuable balls because of the incredible history that surrounds it. This is a must-have for any baseball fan, and it's clear that it's worth every penny. Have you heard of the best-known Babe Ruth autographed baseball? If not, you're about to. This is the most famous ball signed by Babe Ruth, and it's considered one of the most valuable baseballs in existence. The story behind this ball is also pretty interesting. The ball was gifted to Hollywood publicist Sid Mitchell by Claire Merritt Hodgson, who was Ruth's widow. After being passed down through Mitchell's family, his estate sold it at an auction for more than $388,000. And according to Mitchell's son, though, the ball was actually purchased by former Yankees owner George Steinbrenner. If you want to talk about a ball with some serious history behind it, this is the one. It's priced so high for obvious reasons, and is surely a baseball that most fans would love to own. So, how much does the most expensive baseball in existence cost? Let's talk about the Babe Ruth home run ball. This baseball is the most expensive baseball sold at an auction, and for good reason. The history and incredible story behind this ball make it one of the most impressive pieces of baseball memorabilia you will ever see. This ball was hit during the first All-Star game in the 1930s, which just so happened to be a home run with an incredible accomplishment attached to it. This home run marked the very first home run in All-Star history and is considered one of Ruth's most impressive career accomplishments. Ruth was signed by the Yankees in 1920 and played with the team until 1934. Although he only played 14 seasons, he's considered one of the greatest players of all time, and decades later, this baseball sold for more than $700,000. This is an incredible price for a baseball, but its historical value is priceless. For this reason, it shouldn't surprise any baseball fans that it holds the title for being the most expensive baseball ever sold. If you were looking for a list of the most impressive baseballs in existence, you just found it. These 10 baseballs are insanely expensive and downright invaluable. We wouldn't be surprised if they continue to make headlines over the next decade. And if you're ever lucky enough to lay your hands on one of these, consider yourself blessed. Okay, let's sum it up. This list of impressive baseballs goes from expensive to downright invaluable. Invaluable, of course, is an understatement for a baseball that was hit by Babe Ruth during the very first All-Star game. If anything, this ball is priceless and will likely remain one of the most famous baseballs and pieces of memorabilia in general for decades to come. As for the other balls on our list, they each have their own impressive stories, whether it's Harridge's signed baseball or the baseball signed by star-studded lineup of Baseball Hall of Famers. Each ball has something special to offer. So there you have it, the 10 most expensive and invaluable baseballs ever. But which baseball would you absolutely love to get your hands on? It doesn't matter if it's not the most expensive as long as it's invaluable in your eyes. Let us know in the comments below, and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll catch you in the next video.